Okay, next lesson. I have flipped the log to 90 degrees, which means that flat face that I just milled, which is coming up beautifully, is now theoretically perfectly right angles to the bunk of the bed, which means that when I now come along and cut here, that should give me a right angle to this face. And that is your most important second cut. This cut doesn't matter that much. That cut and that cut doesn't matter. This cut matters because this face being right angled to this face means that this face and this face, so the bottom one and this one, will also be right angled because this face will be exactly parallel to this one down here because it's going to lie flat on the bunk, and this one is going to lie flat on the bunk later on and mean that this one is parallel to this one. So this first right angle that you're making here is the most important cut in the process. If that's not square, you're going to end up with a diamond, which is actually really annoying to fix later on. You have to do little wedges. Okay, so how do you get that right angle? So Woodland instruction manual tells you to square up these bunk supports, which is a really great idea in theory, and that's how I have been doing it. You can see it. You can see a little bit of daylight down at the bottom there, touching at the top. So it does change. Sorry, scratch that. This is I'm missing some nuts on this one. So the rest of them have these little adjustment nuts. I don't use that one because I never have logs that exact length. So these little nuts for the Woodland sawmill, you can push them in and out to get this support to be square to the bunk. Okay, so that's in theory a really great way to approach this, except for invariably as you're rolling your log, you're going to have little deposits of sawdust either on the bunk or, as you can see, all over the show here. Unless you're going to be tediously sweeping that off, even that amount is not that compressible, and that's actually going to completely throw off the squareness. So what I've been seeing people doing is assuming that your bunk is exactly level, which in this case it is. So that spirit level is telling me that this bunk is 100% level to gravity. Now what I can do is rotate, make sure there's no sawdust. It's aforementioned sawdust. I can rotate that log until it is also saying perfectly vertical. And now, according to this spirit level, which obviously, I mean, spirit levels are pretty amazing, the fact that we still use them, because as you can see, there's a little bit of discrepancy there. I mean, how quickly do you read a spirit level and how fastidious did you? Okay, so that one, for example, I would actually want to roll a little bit. So yeah, I think a digital spirit level is probably a really great idea at this point. So yeah, that's one way to square this up. In theory, that should all be down the same, unless you've ended up with a twist in your log, which is pretty unusual. Both ends will be the same. If this front face is at perfect right angles to the bunk, then that'll be great. Okay, so that's the second method. And now the last method. I'm going to try and do all of these things in one single take, so I'm not having to do any editing. This is just meant to be shorts. I'm trying out a short system on YouTube. So another method that I've seen, courtesy of two guys and a sawmill, I'm going to try and get under my sawmill here, is you get your right angle, big one, and you chuck it on here, and you should be able to bring that up to your sawmill blade, which is actually not that tricky if a log's not perfectly square. I've never done this technique. So the end of your log kind of needs to be pretty nice. But yeah, in theory, this is now a way to do it. So it's touching on the right, and it's just a bit off, which is what the spirit level is telling me. So yeah, I could roll the log out a bit again. So yeah, that's how you square the log to get that second cut being at right angles to this face. Choose your method. So now when you find out that you're not square, what do you do? What I've been seeing people do, even professional sawmillers like Midwestern sawmills, Dennis Clooney, is to put little shivs of wood in there, little wedges of wood. That actually looks really tedious. So what I'm going to do, it's going to be my adaptation, is I'm going to drill maybe here, and one further down through my upright posts. I don't know what they're really called. And then tap them with a tap and die set. And then I'll have regular little bolts like this, maybe with wing nuts on them, butterfly heads, whatever you call them. And with that, I should then be able to just eke that in and out much more ergonomically. And when I take them out, this still works as a normal bunk. So I don't often have to do that. Normally this ends up being perfectly square off the bat. But if it's not, I think that twisty thing might be an easy approach. Actually, these, I never fully shoot them out of the way. They'll always stay about this high off the ground. If I need anything shorter, I usually use these little blocks, and that's when I've already got a cant, everything's square, and you need far less support. When you have a log that is still big, heavy, cumbersome, round, you really want as much of this as you can have, and you just have to keep an eye out that you don't go cutting into your post, because that's the end of that blade. All right, hope that was helpful and insightful. And that's me doing marginal milling with my sawmill. And that's Floki the Nutcracker out.